Make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the 207th episode of Make Your Day Richer. I'm glad you're here. I thank you for being here. We have amazing people that we introduce you to every day. I'm excited to meet all of my guests. I'm glad you are too. Let's see how many people since, in 206 episodes have watched the show and enjoyed this program. Let's take a look. Of 334,173. We like exact numbers around here, and I thank all 334,173 of you for watching the show. Now's a really good time to just click that share button wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Just click that button, and let's get to 335,000 by tomorrow, would you? Now, it does take a lot of work, a lot of energy, a lot of time to put this show together to make the best show possible for you. So if you'd like to support the show, you can go. Not right. Oh, there we go. buymeacoffee.com/makeyourdayricher and help us by supporting the show that way, would you? All right, that's all I have. We have a great show today, so I think I should shut up and we should go. My first guest is an author who has delved into the heart of danger and the power of human resilience. AJ Otjen is the writer behind the compelling new book, Burned Over. The book tells the remarkable story of Montana firefighter Dan Steffensen, who defied the odds after a life-altering burnover incident. So please welcome AJ Otjen. AJ, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, of course. Congratulations on the book. The book, of course, is called Burned Over.
Well, we're thrilled. Sorry. It was, I thought I turned that off. It was a long time coming. It took 2.5 years to write with Dan and all the people involved. Dan was in a coma for a third of the book. So there's a lot of people involved in writing this book. And we were very happy to get it out and have the reception that it's had.
Yes. Tell everybody about the book.
Well, in the summer of 2021, the town of Red Lodge experienced 4 tragedies. So they still call it the Summer of Hell. And one of them was the burnover of a beloved firefighter, local firefighter named Dan Steffensen. And he was hit by a wall of fire and could not outrun it. And it burned him over 60% of his body with 3rd-degree burns. And he should have died right then. But instead, they got him to the hospital in Billings, and they flew him to Utah, the burn center. And so basically the book tells the story of the Red Lodge fire department, the town of Red Lodge, and then getting him to Utah, and then the doctors in Utah, and then his family arriving in Utah, and how he was in a coma for a long time, with everyone praying for him. And then back in Red Lodge, there was a fire still going on that almost came right to the edge of town. And there was a missing hiker who was a graduate of MSU, of Montana State University, that was lost. And then another firefighter had a freak accident. So it was the summer of hell for Red Lodge. And they really needed Dan to live. They needed one win, basically. They needed Dan to live and come home. And he did. He survived. He healed from his burns, and he came home. And so it was a miracle story that the town really needed. And he lived. And that's why, all firefighters are heroes, but Dan is especially a hero because he overcame those burns, went through the horrible agony of recovering from those burns, and made it home and returned to being a firefighter.
Oh my gosh. So, how far after did he return to work?
He made it in the summer of 23. And we talk about that because there's, he has to pass a pack test, and he had several more skin grafts to go through, and get physically back in shape to pass his pack test to be a wildland firefighter. And he did
Oh
it
my
by the summer of
gosh.
23. Yeah.
Wow. How
Got
did
back
you
on the
get
line.
involved with the story?
That's a really good question. I'm a professor at Montana State University, and I teach marketing. And my students were asked to come up with a marketing campaign for the firefighters calendar. And we did, we were talking about personal protective equipment, which is what Dan was wearing when he was burned. And so the firefighters asked Dan if he would be the spokesperson on the calendar, and he graciously was. And it was a very nice campaign, and he was wonderful. So I met him on the shoot of my students' campaign for the calendar, and we became friends and talked. And actually, we just texted each other because he was back in Utah getting another skin graft. And so then I had some other books going on. One of them was it was a children's book with a local artist named Kevin Redstar. And Dan read about it, and he said, would you write my book? And I went, oh, well, I've never done a nonfiction novel, Dan, but how do you say no? Right? So I said, okay, I'll give it my best shot. So I started research. I mean, I'm an academic, and all I've really written, my specialty is 1,000 words, because I have a column in the local newspaper, and I did children's books. But this was a 40,000 word nonfiction novel
Endeavor.
but
Yeah.
I got to work researching and interviewing and learning how to be a narrative nonfiction author, because this was such an amazing story. And every person I interviewed cried. And Dan and I got to know each other very well, because it really took a lot to pull his emotions out of him to tell his story. He doesn't like to talk about his feelings, and it took and we had to find. He wanted it to be a fire book, and it's not a fire story. I mean, there's fire in the story, a lot of it, but it's a human story, a human drama.
Who would you say that the book is for?
Well, that's a good question, because Dan really wanted to tell this story for all the people, the thousands of people that stepped up to make him live. I mean, when you think about everybody from the workman's comp people of Montana to the nurses and doctors and the therapists and the wound care people and the first responders, all the people that it took, that it takes for anybody to survive what he went through. These people never get recognized, and we wanted to recognize and thank all the people that are involved in these types of. Oh, and the honor guard. There's an honor guard in Utah that never left his side. That stayed. They're dressed from their covers to their shine shoes and stand over him the entire time he was there. So this is a Herculean effort by thousands of people, good people who step up to greatness, to save people. And we wanted to capture that and put it on the page and just thank all these people. So the book is really for them. And we're just really thrilled that the reception has been so heartwarming, so heartfelt, that I think that, I captured the emotions that were there. And that was my goal, was to say, this is what happened. And people call me and say, they actually have thanked me, and they say, look, we can't put it down, which is nice, but except to stop and collect our emotions. We have to stop and cry for a minute before we can keep going. And I said, well, that's kind of what I intended, because I was crying as I wrote it. So
yeah, I mean, when a book can do that,
yeah.
That Summer of Hell, were all of those incidents just isolated incidents? And was he involved in any of the other ones?
No, they happened within 60 days, all to the town of Red Lodge. First, Robertson Draw Fire, which came right up to the edge of town, almost was threatening to burn down the town. And then Tate Morrell got lost, and she ended up not being found, but they searched for her like all summer long. And then Dan got burned over, and then another firefighter, Ryan Pless, was killed by in a skateboarding accident. So those four things, I mean, one after another, this all happened to Red Lodge. So I think I said in the book, it was just, the mortality was just consuming the town, and everybody was. I mean, it was they couldn't take anymore. And if Dan had died and not come home, they were all just praying for him to come home. Please, Dan, live. Please, Dan, come out of your coma. Please, Dan, if you can, fight hard and come back to us. And he did. They really needed him to live. And writing the story, once I understood that, once I met all the people of Red Lodge and understood that, that's when I knew why Dan's story was so important, because him coming home was so important to them. And that gave me the structure and the context of telling the story. It was for Red Lodge.
I know you had mentioned that you had written children's books. Have you always been interested in the written word? Like, how long have you been writing?
Well, I've been an academic for I've always had to write academically because I'm a professor. I started writing creatively about 9 years ago. Okay. And I've gotten better and better at that, turning from being a researcher, academic, into more of a creative writer. But I started really with the Crow Reservation because I have so many students who are Native American. And I worked with my Native American students on their stories and getting them on the page. And also now with Crow artists, so they would illustrate the books. In fact, the last book we did with Kevin Red Star was chosen by the Library of Congress, so we're very proud of that one. It's called Elk Morning and at the Battle of Arrow Creek, because the Battle of Arrow Creek is a true story, and we adapted our fictitious characters in Kevin's paintings to tell the story of the Battle of Arrow Creek. So that was chosen by the Library of Congress. So that's kind of exciting. Wow. And that's the book that Dan saw and said, "Would you write my story?" And I kind of went, "Oh my God." So and now I've got two more go. I have a new book going with Kevin, but it's a pop-up. We're popping up Kevin's art. So that's
I forgot about pop-up books. Oh my gosh.
Well, Kevin's art is actually world renowned, and so we're kind of excited. It's called Saliba Crow on the Elk River, so it's also a historic idea of representing the Saliba Crow and their 400 years on the Elk, which is the Yellowstone River, but it's the Elk River to the natives, so to the indigenous people. So we're excited about that. So almost all of my books are something about history or courage or Montana or nature.
Where is the best way that people can connect with you and follow you and support you?
Thank you for asking. I do have a website. It's ajotjen.com.
Okay, great. That's
easy. My website.
I just love how creative you are, and I love the both sides of you, the academic side and then that creative side. I think that's what probably makes your life so movie-like right now. That you get to express both sides.
Well, I do also have a lot of dogs, so. I also have a horse and a lot of dogs, so that helps too.
Well, it's very quiet for how many animals you have. I have one, and it's usually like a circus in here, so I'm impressed.
Well, they're all outside. I put them outside. So
the book is called Burned Over. AJ, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. We'll be right back after
this.
Thank you. Don't go away. Thank you.
Bye.
Life is difficult. Are you feeling overwhelmed or like you could use a little support for your mental well-being? Visit the Help Hub. It's the most comprehensive and inclusive free online destination for mental health resources, helpful tools, crisis hotlines, and supportive content. Just go to thehelphub.co to find the resources you need when you need them most. Unlike other resource pages, the Help Hub is divided into 16 different categories, ensuring that everyone in every community has access to the resources and support that matches their unique needs. Find the help you're looking for at thehelphub.co.
Welcome back, everybody. Oh my God, it worked. It's so fun when this stuff works. Okay, here we go. My next guest is a key player in the world of tabletop gaming. Brian is the founder of Crowbar Creative, the game design studio behind the highly anticipated Monty Python role-playing game. Brian is here to take us behind the scenes of creating these immersive and engaging game experiences. So please welcome Brian. Let me get the right thing here. Here we go. This is day 4. Hi, Brian. Good morning.
Hey, Richard. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. I love the concept of the show, and I really like your set. This TV. Did you ever watch Space Ghost Coast to Coast?
You're a good mime. I like it. I like it.
This it reminds me of Space Ghost Coast to Coast. You ever watch that show?
No.
Oh, it was a great, hilarious show. But anyway, this setup reminds me of that.
Oh, that's funny.
Anyway,
Well, I wanted to make sure I forgot to ask you before we started how to pronounce your last name, and I didn't want to screw it up for when people are trying to find you. So how do you pronounce your last name?
yeah, it's Saliba.
Saliba. That's what I was going to say, but then I got scared. So I should go with my
That's
instinct.
right. I wouldn't have taken offense.
All right. I will. First of all, I want to start. Like, I am the worst. I grew up with brothers who we had all the video game consoles, we had all the things, and I was not doing that. I was doing stuff like this. So, did you grow up loving games? Were you always creative?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother, my oldest brother, who's the co-author of this game with me, he introduced me to Dungeons and Dragons sometime in the early '80s, and introduced me to Monty Python about the same time. And I've been playing tabletop games ever since, and eventually had this opportunity to make a Monty Python themed role playing game with the license with the licensor, and so obviously I had my oldest brother Craig co-write it with full circle.
How I have so many questions. Okay, so right now, literally me gaming. This is why I wanted to have you on, because I knew I was going to learn a lot from you. Gaming to me right now is getting my Switch out and playing Uno. That's my extent of gaming, and I love it. How, when you say like you got to author, your brother is the co-author of the game, like what does that mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a book.
Oh, cool.
It's a book, and it's dice, and it's all sorts of other accoutrement, but it's a tabletop game, not a video game. So it's played around a table, virtual, but usually actual table, with a bunch of your friends, and one person takes on the role of the person who is kind of overseeing the game and refereeing things, and narrating some bits, and that person is in our system is referred to as the head of light entertainment, and the other people around the table all take on the roles of characters in this world. And in the case of this game, which is all Monty Python based, you are not portraying characters from Monty Python canon. You're creating your own characters in that same vein, and then as you're bumping around medieval England, you are likely to run into not only the characters and situations from the Holy Grail movie, but also characters and situations from Life of Brian and Meaning of Life, and now something completely different, and the Flying Circus, and their books and albums, that we sort of plumbed the depths of their entire catalog of work to try and create an experience that brings to life all of that.
Well, first of all, this is how much of an idiot I am. I somehow thought that it was like some sort of video game. And even though I've been reading about you and reading about this, I did not put two and two together. So I apologize about that. I love, how long does it take? Because you're creating an entire, like you said, like you are writing this entire story. How long does that take to create? Because you're kind of making an entirely new Monty Python world in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's kind of creating a toolbox with which people can kind of make their own stories using Python. So it's kind of, in some sense, there's a lot of creation. In other sense, there's a lot of reskinning and iteration, and taking the canonical characters from Python movies and shows and figuring out what sort of statistics they would have, so that the person running the game can use them, can pluck them out of the toolbox and make use of them. But also our game comes with 10 pre-made adventures, 10 pre-made quests. So the head of light entertainment isn't expected to do everything from scratch. But in answer to your first question, the very first proposal I did for this game I put together was back in 2020, and at that point it was just an idea, and it took the better part of 2.5 years to get that proposal. Well, to get the license to do this from Monty Python, and uh, along the way, I conscripted my brother, and uh, the publisher, Exalted Funeral, came on board, and then we did a crowdfunding campaign in 2023, which was successful, and so we were able to move forward with it, and now the book and the dice, and well, there's a lot of other things, role playing game accoutrements that are all out. It's all on shelves and online. So it all in all, from that very first proposal, it took better part of 5 years, and going back to the early '80s with my brother, playing D&D and laughing at Monty Python. I guess you could say it took almost 40.
40 years. Yeah. Yes, give or take. Who would you say that like the game is made for? Is it just like fans of Monty Python, or I mean, I'm assuming also this is going to be introduced to a whole kind of maybe generation of people who haven't even heard of it.
Yeah, well, we were trying to kind of thread the needle on that, in that we obviously want Monty Python fans to enjoy it and appreciate it, and hopefully they'll think that we dealt with this beloved source material respectfully. It's the wrong word maybe, but lovingly ripped it off, I guess. And but we didn't want the mechanics to be too daunting for fans of Monty Python who don't know much about tabletop role playing games.
Yeah.
And so we tried to keep it rules light and keep it pretty intuitive, and kind of, it's really more about, it's a narrative based game. So there are a lot of tabletop role playing games that are extremely tactical and have lots and lots of rules and mechanics that govern how the game is played. Ours is not that. Ours is, we have what I hope is kind of the bare minimum of rules and mechanics, so that it's more about improvisation and communal storytelling. But on the other hand, and the other part of the threading the needle, we also wanted people who are hobbyists, who are role-playing game hobbyists, but who don't necessarily know Monty Python very well. We didn't want them to get a hold of the game and think, it sounds interesting, I don't really know much about these guys. Or in our hobby, usually if people know anything about Monty Python, or if they only know one thing, they know the Holy Grail movie.
Right.
Because there's just a lot of crossover between that and kind of traditional Dungeons and Dragons and medieval fantasy. But we wanted people who aren't super familiar with Python to not feel like if they got the game or were sitting at a table, that it's just not made for them, or that they're not getting the jokes. So we didn't want it to feel like too much of an inside joke, or that you need some sort of minimum of proficiency with all things Python. So I hope we made something that will appeal to both groups, but I guess that remains to be seen.
Was there pressure when you're working on something that is so iconic and that has such a following? Is there pressure when you're building this out to do all of those things that you just said, or was it exciting to be able to be a part of it?
I think my brother would say it was exciting. I think I would say it was pressure.
Yeah.
I felt the weight of how much people love Python, and how I mean, the Holy Grail movie just came back into theaters for its anniversary this month, and it's just so I felt that, and I'm someone who, if I see someone is doing a licensed whatever with an IP I really love, I'm immediately very skeptical. So I don't blame people at all if they're skeptical upon first hearing about this, because I would have been if I heard somebody was doing a Python role playing game. I would have thought, oh God, no, they're gonna mess it up. They're gonna, this is I love this stuff, and they're not gonna get it right. So I certainly felt the weight of that, and even though the crowdfunding campaign was successful, more than we anticipated by a lot, which was a similar mix of emotions. It was very gratifying and exciting, but it was also, now there were a whole lot of people out there who had essentially pre-ordered this, and so we had a lot of people we had to please. So a little of both, I guess.
Yeah. Where is it available? Is it out? Is it available, or are we still working on it?
It's out. Yeah, it's available. You can should be able to find it at most comic and hobby stores. It should be in some mainstream bookstores, if not now, soonish. The distribution it's in some cases it's not everywhere it's going to be yet. But it's also, available online, Amazon, Walmart, or you can buy it directly from the publisher, Exalted Funeral. The website for the game is MontyPythonRPG.com, and that's where sort of everything's there, and there's videos sort of demoing it, and other kind of resources for people who might hear this interview and think that sounds interesting. I have no idea what he's talking about.
I mean, that's what I thought going into this, but see, now I'm learning.
Right.
Well, you're also the founder of Crowbar Creative. What else are you working on over there?
Yeah. Well, we published a role-playing game setting and supplement last year, based on the work of Greg Broadmoor, who is an artist at Weta Workshop, one of the big special effects studios down in New Zealand. And that one's called Dr. Grordbort's Scientific Adventure Violence. I guess I have a thing for long, hard to pronounce titles. And then my brother and I, Craig, we published a setting a year or two before that called Rackham Vale. That was all based on the artwork of Arthur Rackham, who was a great English illustrator of the British golden age of British book illustration. And these days, I am working on a board game that is not announced yet, but is going to be pretty soon.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
How many projects are you usually working on at one time? Like, was the Monty Python game the only thing that was the concentration until it was done, or were you working on other projects?
I wish that had been the case. We as I mentioned, we kind of chased the Python license for the better part of 2.5 years, and there were times when we thought it was definitely going to happen, and then times when it seemed like this isn't going to happen. There was just a lot of back and forth and a lot of kind of layers of merch companies and licensing companies. There's just a lot to navigate, and at one point it felt like it just wasn't going to happen, and I said to the publisher, and I think we might need to just kind of move on, because we've been chasing this a long time, and I just don't know. And so at that time, we went and signed the deal with Greg to do the Dr. Grordbort's project. And so we were just signed that license. It happened really quickly, and we were excited. They were excited. We started making the game, and we were just kind of getting things off the ground when suddenly Python came back, and it got very real very fast, and we signed that license. So those two books, those two games were developed simultaneously, which is not something I'll ever do again voluntarily. But it was
that's a lot. Yeah.
I mean, the choice was either just say goodbye, just turn down Python because we already signed the Dr. Grordbort deal. So
Right.
we've been chasing that so long, I wasn't going to turn it down. So I just kind of buckled in for what was going to be a pretty tricky 2 years.
An adventure. Yeah. What do you love most about your life right now?
I love, right now, the thing I love the most is I love reading people's recaps of their Monty Python games. It's one of my favorite things. We have a Discord channel, and we have a place there where people can post just quick recaps of here's what happened. We did this quest, and the giant foot squashed this guy, and that is it's just such a joy for me to every morning or whenever I check the Discord channel to see a new one there and read about how people are engaging with Python. And because Python is just so relentlessly creative, and our game is a vehicle for engaging with Python. It's not necessarily a new Python movie or anything, but it makes me very happy to read about people's fun experiences, and to picture them around the table enjoying it. That's very gratifying.
That's so cool. Yeah, when you work so hard on something like that and then you put it out there, it's nice that there are now ways to engage after to see what the response is, as opposed to just being like, well, I don't know. I either see units being sold or not, but you don't actually know. You can't engage with the people using it. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, the same thing. That's why people need to like, watch, and subscribe, right, to this show.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
All the work you put in, and then it's just great when people take the time to tell you that they enjoyed it, or and same thing with the game, to read how they enjoyed it, or say something kind. It's very gratifying.
So true. So true. What is the best way that people can connect with you and follow you?
Well, I'm on most socials as Crowbar Creative. And then my website is crwbr.com. So it's just Crowbar without the vowels. And the game itself and all the kind of demo videos and how-tos and FAQ and all that stuff is at montypythonrpg.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here, for educating me. And congratulations on something 40 years in the making. It must be a kind of a weight off your shoulders, and it's so exciting. What a fun time of life to be able to produce something like that.
Thank you so much, Richard. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. Come back anytime, because now that I know it's not video games, I love games. So we can chat even more. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right, that's our show, everybody. Go make your day richer. Go make somebody else's day richer. You've made mine by watching the show, and I just love you for it. We'll be back, I'm just choking, all new tomorrow, Friday. So join us, would you? Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.